So today I thought we would talk about a word of the year and like what a word of the year is. I have been choosing a word of the year for about 10 years now. And for me, a word of the year is like a guidepost or a sign marker. It's like when you're on a trail and it's that sign that helps you remember which path to choose, which way to go. It is your touchstone throughout the year that reminds you to come back to your overall goal or focus. And even though I, like many people, just call word of the year a word of the year, it doesn't have to be a word. It can be a quote, it can be a phrase, it can be a mantra, it can be anything that acts as that touchstone for you. And so the purpose of your word of the year is to help you slow down and center, to come back to yourself when you get caught up in the busyness of life, when there's just so much swirling around you that you lose yourself for a moment. That word of the year really can help you come back to your heart, yourself, your soul. And so I think of my word of the year as my lighthouse. It's lighting my way in the dark and it's helping me find myself again and again when I've been thrown off balance or off course by turbulent waves. And so now you may be wondering, okay, I understand what a word of the year is and what the purpose of a word of the year is, but how do I actually find my word of the year? And just the concept of trying to pick one word out of all the words can be really daunting because there are 146 commonly used words in the English language. So that's a lot of words, and that's just commonly used words. Your word of the year may not be a commonly used word. So that just adds even more words. So I thought today I would walk you through my process of picking out my word of the year. And this is just my process. Feel free to alter it, change it, take what works for you, leave the rest. But to find your word of the year, what I suggest you have is a journal, a dictionary, and a thesaurus. And luckily, thesaurus and dictionary, you can find them online. Even a journal, you don't have to have a physical journal. You can use like the Notes app in your phone, right? So the first step in figuring out your word of the year is to take some time to reflect. You want to think about the past year, the experiences you had, the emotions that came up for you, the events that occurred. But basically, you want to reflect to help you get clear on where you are right now. And the reason you want to get clear on that is thinking through your past year and how it felt for you. It can help you play around with, did you like how it felt? Or did you wish it had felt differently? When whatever events or situations occurred, we can't control these things that happen around us, but like we can, to some degree, control our responses. And so did you respond the way you would have liked to respond, or do you wish in the future you would respond differently in those kinds of situations? And you start to think about, how do you want to feel? And this is when we have to suspend our logical mind and say, I know you are there to protect me and you want to keep me safe and you want to help me think through things and be step by step, but right now it's not what I need. When thinking through how you want to feel, you want to just take away all thoughts about what you think is possible or how you think logically things should or will work out. Instead, you really want to let yourself dive deep into perhaps the parts of you that you don't look at often, or you may even neglect because your logical mind tells you that those things aren't possible. And there's a sense of like, why bother? Why go there if I can't have that? So we're going to put all that to the side and instead think about how you want to feel. Think about maybe some of what's going to come up for you in the upcoming 12 months. Maybe you have trips planned or things you want to accomplish. How do you want to feel as you move through those things, as those things happen? So you want to give yourself some time to really sit with this. And what I want you to do is start to brainstorm a list of 10 or more words that reflect how you want to feel for this upcoming year. So let's get some examples. Let's say right now you feel anxious, but you really want to feel free and light. So we're not going to worry about how you're going to feel free and light, or how you're going to maybe, I'm using air quotes, get rid of the anxious feeling. You don't want to entertain those thoughts at all. You can come back to them later after we're done. Instead, I want you to follow the feeling of how you do want to feel. So we would start here by looking up the definition of free and then looking up the definition of light. And as you read those definitions, you want to note what sparks your interest in those definitions. Maybe as you are reading those definitions, you get a little bit more clarity and another word comes up for you in the definition that resonates more. So then you go look that word up. You can also look up the words free and light in a thesaurus to see what similar words you feel called to. Let's say you begin with the first word, light. You look up the definition and you find a definition of a source of illumination. Illumination gets your attention, so you follow that breadcrumb by looking up the definition of illumination. And then you look up the word light on a thesaurus.com or in a thesaurus if you have a physical one, and you find a variety of words that resonate with you, such as luminous, glowing, shining, and aglow. Then you look up the definition of those words and you follow those breadcrumbs of whatever sparks your interest. And as you keep going, you realize that the feeling you were going after, the feeling that you originally thought of as a lightness of weight is what you're going for. But the idea of a light that illuminates resonates with you more. And so after going through and looking up definitions and synonyms, and maybe even sitting with the words for a day or two, you settle on the word resplendent, which means attractive and impressive through being richly colorful or scrumptious. And see, resplendent is not a commonly used word, I don't think. And you probably wouldn't have found the word resplendent without going through the process of jotting down a list of words, looking up their definitions, looking up their synonyms, following the breadcrumbs of what resonates with you within the definition or within the synonym, and just keep going deeper and deeper until you find the word that you just is it. So what if you go through this process? You look up definitions and synonyms, and maybe you have a few words that you feel are in the running, but you're not sure which word it is. This is when I suggest using divination tools. First off, if you're feeling unsure about your word of the year, there is no rush. You can take your time. I definitely believe in a lot of our society and culture is very much New Year, New You, right on January 1st. But to me, the year really doesn't begin until the spring equinox. Winter is really about resting and restoration and recuperating our energy levels, our energy stores, recovering from the past year, reviewing the past year. So if it doesn't feel like now, as I'm recording this in early January, is the right time for you to pick a word of the year, that is totally fine. Your word of the year can begin whenever you want it to be. Your word of the year can be a word of the month or the word of the week. It's totally up to you. This is your touchstone. You get to make the call on how you use it. But if you really feel like, no, I really want to pick something now, but I'm having trouble choosing between like these 2 or 3 words, this is when divination tools can really come in handy. There's a few things you can do. I like using a pendulum to help clarify my word of the year if I'm having trouble choosing. Just a simple yes, no, is this my word of the year? Pendulum can really help with that. You can also use an oracle or a tarot deck for your word of the year. For example, I'm gonna grab my Soul Care Oracle deck right here, and I am going to shuffle the deck. And let's say, going back to that example, when we originally looked up the word light, let's say we were like, is light my word or is resplendent my word? And we weren't sure on which word. I would take my deck, use any deck you would like. I would pull, you can do this in a variety of ways. You can do this one at a time where you say, is light my word of the year? And then pull a card and see what that card is. And then is resplendent my word of the year? And pull a card and see what that card is. And I will show you, because when I said, is light my word of the year? I pulled the full moon card. The affirmation on the full moon card is, I am celebrating my unique self. When I said, is resplendent my word of the year? I pulled the Mars card. The affirmation on the Mars card is, I have confidence in myself and my inner fire. So then it's a matter of which card resonates with you. And it may be you resonate with the colors of one card, or the affirmation of one card, or the imagery on the card. Whatever you find, what resonates with you, and that can help maybe give you a little oomph towards one word or the other. The other way you might want to pull cards for choosing between words of the year is, instead of saying, is light my word of the year, you could say, what would my year look like with light being my guidepost. And I pulled the waning crescent card, which the affirmation on that card is, I am trusting in my magic. And then you could say, what would my year look like with the word resplendent as my guidepost? And then I pulled the Taurus card, which says, I cultivate and nourish my self-worth. And so again, it just comes down to which card resonates with you more, which one feels like the direction you are being called to go in. I also want to encourage you here that there really is no wrong choice. This is not a, I am going to choose my word of the year, and if I choose it wrong, it's going to mess up my year. That is not the situation here. Your word of the year is for you. Your word of the year is to help you remember that feeling you are looking for, that you are seeking. It's when you are trying to decide between directions. You're trying to decide between things and you're like, I really don't know which way to go. This is when your word of the year comes into play and you can say, which choice, which direction leads me closer to that feeling of my word of the year? And that's where your word of the year can help you and help guide you through your year so you get closer to that feeling you want. And so I really encourage when you do choose your word of the year that it's not a one and done situation. Instead, I want you to continuously reflect on your word of the year and even think about what actions you can take in the year ahead that will help you resonate with your word of the year. So if we go back to resplendent, which means attractive and impressive through being richly colorful or scrumptious. What does that mean for you? What does that look like? Does that mean you want yourself and the way you dress to be resplendent? Do you want your house to be resplendent? What would help you feel resplendent? Would it be like certain foods you eat or certain things you drink or having a certain journal or something you see every day that just helps you feel colorful? And then I also suggest, hopefully in your soul care planner, you mark like a touchstone every quarter to take some time to check in with how your year is going. Check in if you feel like you are still in alignment with your word of the year. Maybe what tweaks or shifts do you need to make so you feel more in touch with that word? And then also at the end of each quarter, I really suggest taking time to reflect for a mindful pause. Just take a look at what's working in your life and why it is or isn't working. Where are old habits popping up? Where are new experiences taking shape? And these can all, again, act as touchstones to help guide you as you mindfully move through your year ahead. So if you enjoyed this little glimpse into my process of choosing a word of the year, but you'd like more guidance, feel free to join us in the Cosmic Academy, where I do have a workbook available for walking through the process of choosing your word of the year. It goes a little bit more deeper than what I've done here because this is a podcast and a lot of the word of the year process is written form. And so I would love for you to join me in the Cosmic Academy. The Cosmic Academy is what I created as a companion to the Soul Care Planner, where you get monthly astrology in-depth walkthrough, you get seasonal master classes, and there are monthly tools that I include, such as printable oracle decks or meditations, for each month that go with the theme of the month to help you work through the astrology and the energy of the month ahead. And so there's the link to that in the show notes. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this, and until next time.